Assalamu alaikum students, how are you all? Hope that you are having an amazing day at home. I'm Muhammad Naeem Amin Bhatti, and today we are going to discuss the chapter number 7 and 8 of Emerson's essay Nature, the very famous essay. And in this study session, we will cover the following points: the overview of chapter number 7, especially with the discussion and elaboration of Emerson's work. The nature has a spiritual power. He says that there is always a hidden spiritual power in nature, and we will also discuss the unity of nature, that how the nature has been unified, especially the overview of chapter number 8, which is the final and concluding chapter of this book. Here he describes the empirical sciences, he defines the empirical science, and he says that what is the difference between the understanding and reasoning, that what are the things which makes us the reasons understandable and which makes our understanding according to the reasonings. And after that we will conclude this book and chapter as well, and we will have an overall analysis. So let's have start our chapter number 7, attempting to penetrate the mystery of natural's vital unity, that nature has a vital unity. Emerson describes us that there is always a unifying force among the nature which makes the things united to each other. It describes not only the phenomena which has been scattered at that time, but nature has a fulfilling power, as some kind of you can say the vital force in it which unifies the each and everything. Emerson's language and concept concerning a universal spirituality. He says that there is always a driving force behind every happening, that every happening has a driving force, every solid reason takes place behind every scientific happening. So these are under some type of vital force that was given by J.F. Wöhler at the certain time, which was called the vital force theory, related to the chemistry especially. He used to say that there is a special vital force is always needed to make the organic compounds. That was his concept. But here Emerson says in literature that to make our thoughts spiritual, to make our thoughts universal, to make our concepts, and to make our nature feasible, there should be a vital force. There is always a requirement of vital force which drives our thoughts, which drives our natural things, which drives our conceptions, which are drives our universal ideas, and which drives our spiritual thoughts. So a vital force is always important, which is under the hand of God. He suggests that the mystical truths are sometimes unaware to people. Sometimes there are the mysteries which the people couldn't understand at a time, but with the passage of time it becomes more understandable for them. And whenever we try to define what this spirit is that permeates the nature, that is the spirituality which deals with our natural things. And spirituality demands that there should be an abstract thought in our mind, the thing which is unclear, which is not clear, which is vague in our mind. And at that point of discussion, our comprehension fails us. And what is comprehension here, by the way? Comprehension means, as you all of you knows, that That comprehension means to understand something and to answer that thing. But if we fail to understand the natural mysteries and phenomena, we are not able to answer these things. So, whenever we try to define all of these spiritual things, that vital force, that mystical truth, that spirituality, that noble conception and unifying force, nature as a unifying force, we come to know that we are not going to understand these things at all. So, when our comprehension fails us, we deliberately deals our thinking towards the spiritual and the natural happening. But we still feel that nature has the spiritual properties, that nature has a spiritual power, that nature has the spiritual part which can be played at any type of our life. Like Helen Keller says that Helen Keller is of the opinion that sometime in the stories the doomed hero escaped with a last stroke of his luck. What is this? That is the spirituality and the natural power. That is the spiritual power of the nature, that sometime it saves us or sometime it ruins us. Our critical understanding, our critical understanding of the nature spirit, that what the nature spirituality deals with us and can only be measured or the superficial. It is not at time artificial, I will say. I will say it will be a superficial thing. The thing which deals with the superficial characters, the superficial ideas, like the epical things that we have discussed in some subjects, like the which deals with the god-like things. And if I say that Emerson is of the point that basically nature is God and God is nature, he sometimes defines it like that. But William Wordsworth defines it in the other way. He says that nature is a teacher, nature is a preacher, nature is a nurse, nature is a spiritual power, nature is a soul, nature is a driving force in our body. So all of these things, measures or superficial things, makes us understand that this ignorance does not diminish the importance or the recognition of the mystery. So all of the things which recognizes the world's basic parts are the special things of the natural objects. So nature demands something from us which is always in our spirituality. It means that we can say that nature is spirituality and spirituality is nature. Like John Keats has said that about beauty and truth. He says that truth is beauty, beauty, truth. Beauty is truth, truth, beauty, that's all. That beauty is another form of truth and truth is another form of beauty. Same is case here. Like nature is another part, another form of spirituality, and spirituality is another part of nature, because both of them are the recognition of the mystery. That if we recognize the mysteries of this world, we come across the truths, the nature and the spiritual things. He poses three fundamental questions. I will say them, that he poses the three fundamental and final questions. The very first one question is that the matter, what is the matter out of which the nature is made? As you all know that the scientific knowledge was called the natural philosophy at one time, and then it was divided into the physical sciences and the non-physical sciences, like the biological sciences, which was called. So having the biological sciences and physical sciences in our mind, Emerson questions that what is the matter out of which the nature is made. And having the definition of matter in our mind, that each and everything which occupies some place, have some mass or weight, is called the matter. But what is the nature of the matter? It means that how it has been composed. What is the fundamental building blocks of the matter? In answering this question, he finds that according to the philosophy of idealism, matter is a phenomena and not a substance. There is a huge revelation by the Emerson. He says that matter is basically a some type which is happening, but it is not a substance. Matter is actually, he says that matter is actually a soul. It is not a material, but he says that the nature is something experienced, something distinctly different from the ourselves. So the matter and energy has been defined by Emerson, as was defined by the Einstein, that the other form of matter is actually energy, because the nature is energy and matter is a substance. But here he says that the substance is not to be indulged with the matter, or matter couldn't be said as the substance. It is basically a happening. What is the matter? Matter is actually a happening. What is the spirituality? Spirituality is actually a thought. If our bodies matter, then the soul is our spirituality, or the soul is our non-materialistic thing. That is the thing which is not physical. It is not non-physical thing. So Emerson's view continue about the things and the nature. He gives his earlier statements concerning our foisting onto the nature, that what we want it to be, that which type of nature we does want, which type of nature defines us, which type of nature we are going to demand, what we want it to be, that is our nature. So remember the famous line from the Hamlet, by Prince Hamlet, that to be or not to be, that is the question here also. Emerson admits that the nature is permeated by the human emotions we accord it. If we define the motion, so that is, if the, you can say that that is a personal thought of any person, which are expressed through the words, through expressions, through sometime from the drops from our eyes. It has the different aspects, and having this firm faith in our mind that the human emotions are according to it, then we will educate the William Wordsworth. He was saying right about the poetry, that the poetry is the sudden outlet of emotions. And what is poetry? Poetry was about the nature, poetry was about the spiritual thought, it was about the imaginative works, it was about the matter, it was about the nature, it was about the spirituality, it was about the metaphysical thing, and each and everything we can think about of. So he says that the emotions are always important. Ironically, this conclusion means that the nature as a thing in itself ultimately remains the alien to us. That nature is not something which is defined to us. It is the something which has been an alien to us, that is an undefined thing to us, that nature couldn't be defined by any source or by any sort. So this statement is actually an ironic one, that deal with the spirituality, no doubt about that. It deals with the matter, it deals with the energy, it deals with the emotions, it deals with the human manipulations, it deals with the natural things, but still Emerson ironically says that it is undefined. The nature has some sort of alien thing which is not from our planet, even not from our world at that point on which Emerson is discussing it. If we talk about the next two questions which Emerson posed to us, he addresses that where did the matter that is nature come from? That if the nature has if the nature has been composed of the matter, if the nature consists of the basic building blocks as the matter, then from where our matter has been come from, and towards what end did it come, and where we are going, from where we are coming, and from where to where we are going. So that is the fundamental question which was started with the birth of Adam and Eve also, that who we are, why we are here on this planet, and why the Adam and Eve were here. So these are the fundamental questions which the Emerson poses to us. Emerson asserts that the nature's animating spirit expresses itself through us, that nature is something which has been vague to us. It wasn't defined clearly at that point. So the highest truth is that, if we talk about the true things, that the highest truth is that a universal essence is present here on this world in each and every object, including the human, like each and everything consists upon the matter. It has become with the matter. There are some non-physical things also, there are some physical. Now what is the basic difference between the physical and non-physical things? So I am going to deliver that difference. The physical things which we can measure, or we can especially we can have an sense of them, like the having using the five senses. And non-physical things are the something which we can not measure. The non-physical quantities cannot be measured, like our emotions cannot be measured. Our happiness couldn't be measured. I was very happy, so how much you was happy? But the physical things, like length of a piece of cloth can be measured 6 meter, 5 meter. The weight or the mass of the sugar can be measured like 5 kg, 6 kg, 7 kg. So the physical and the non-physical things comprises, and each and every object, including the humans. If I say that the nature is the interconnection between the physical and non-physical things, that wouldn't be a wrong thing. So having these points, and especially having the 7 previous chapters in your mind, and now in 8th chapter, the concluding chapter, we are going to discuss this, that the definition of the nature, what is the definition of the nature? That is not the definition like the Wordsworth has posed, but that definition coincides with the Emerson's definition. Like Wordsworth says that the nature is a preacher, nature is a teacher, nature is a soothing power, nature has a soft corner for a human being, nature keeps us calm, nature keeps us drive, it is a driving force that deals with the spirituality, etc. These things are the other one. But here, according to Emerson, that the definition of basic definition of deals with this essence or spirit. It deals with the something which is spiritually very strong, which is called the soul by many of the people. Maulana Rum has described this philosophy. Even Iqbal has described this philosophy in his poetry. That what is the spirit? The spirit is the judgment of our own self, that what we are, from where we are coming, and towards where we are going. That deals with the spiritual things. It's a pretty much concerned with the spirituality. It is a life-driving force. Here, the definition of Emerson coincides with the definition of William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth has also said that the nature is a driving force. Emerson also says that the nature is a driving force, and especially it is responsible. In what sort or in what type it is responsible? Basically, the nature is responsible of our existence in this world. We are not here deliberately. We are not here according to the programmed things, like according to the chapter number 1 of our intermediate English course, uh, second year. If we talk about the second year English course, The Dying Sun, a theory by Sir James Jones. In that theory, Sir James Jones used to say that we were not be programmed like to be here in this universe, on this earth. Why? Because the life was not a defined thing on this earth. It was an accidental happening. Life was not an essential part of this world, but it has been now. Our nature, which is responsible of our existence here on this piece of world, and especially for the continuous creation. And all of us are the creatures of God. Allah Almighty has created us. According to Christianity, the Lord has created us. There are the different religious aspects according to which we has been created. There is a Charles Darwin's theory according to which we are from the chimpanzees. Our ancestors were chimpanzees. But what the concept might be behind it, that we are a continuous creation, and that is our nature, that we make our offsprings, and were made by our ancestors. We will reproduce. That is called the reproduction, the basic quantity and the basic quality of the human being. That is the fundamental definition of the nature. And especially, the nature is the thing which is going on all around us. It has captured us. It has captured the life event, the birth, the death, the religious things, the spirituality, the national causes, our thinkings, our role models, our idealization, our imagination. Each and everything has been captured by nature. So it has going on all around us. It is always present among and around us. That is a fundamental definition of nature by Emerson. If we talk about the unity and individuality, that nature has the twofold faces at the same time. It is united at the same time, and it is individualized or the separated at the same time. It creates the unity and individuality of the nature, that spirit and humanity. What is the spirit and what is the humanity? Spiritual things are the non-physical things, and the human beings are the physical one. Spirituality deals with the energy, and human beings deals with the matter. Spirituality is basically the something which couldn't be measured, and human beings are the something which are physical, and definitely they can be measured. The one thing is soul, the other thing is body. If I say that the spirituality is the soul and humanity is the body, but readers will recall the Emerson's warning in the introduction, that like the Emerson says in the introduction, he says that we are not we are now so far from the road to the truth, that we have been diverted from the truth. We are not at the true path. The imbalance that alienates us from the nature is what he is trying to make us aware of, that we are not at the right track, sorry to say. And especially, he says that if we are recognizing the nature, then we should identify that the unity and individuality both are the properties of the nature. And unity is basically fundamental characteristics of the nature, and nature will be pure only if it will be unified and it will be individualized, but at the same time it is united, at the same time it is scattered. So it is a thing which couldn't be understandable. If we talk about the chapter 8, that is the final chapter, which opens with the reflections on how to study the nature, that how we can discuss the nature. According to Emerson, he says that intuition is more preferable. Intuition is basically the something which Almighty Allah puts a thing in our mind slowly, that sometime in Urdu it is called the ilham. Ilham is the basic characteristic of the Waliullah and the pious people and the prophets, and especially the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. Intuition and revelation were the basic characteristic, but intuition is for the common being also, the common being who are near to the spiritual thoughts or who has spirituality in their nature. In trying to understand the nature, then are the calculated measurements of the science and geology, that if we want to measure the nature, the spirituality, the soul, then we discuss the scientific reasons or the scientific things, that either they are helpful to understand the nature, either they are helpful to manipulate the things, to define the things which are close to the nature. So what is the empirical science? The empirical science is based on the detailed observation, studies the individual objects, and as I have mentioned earlier, that the science is the other name of observations, calculations, hypotheses, and experimentation especially. So empirical science fails to place them back into their natural surroundings, because the natural surroundings are not similar or according to the science always. Like if we say that the moon is bright, the moon is white, but sometimes it becomes the black also when having the eclipse, the solar eclipse or the moon eclipse. At that time the both of them changes their color. So the happenings change. If we say that the sun rises exactly from east, it might or might not be true, because sometimes it happens that it is rising from the southeast corner, sometime it from the northeast corner. But there are some dramas in which we have studied that the sun has also traveled backward direction. The sun has traveled in that way that it has reversed its course, it has reversed its journey. So these are the natural happening, rare natural happening. Empirical science views an object only in its singularity. It is always discusses in the individual manner rather than as a piece of larger whole. So the empirical science doesn't studies the things as a whole, but studies the part wise, or the individualized things has been studied in the empirical science. Now we quickly move towards the understanding and reasoning, that Emerson promotes the untaught sallies of the spirit. It means that our spirit is basically, each and everything has been programmed in our spirit, and these programs were not taught to us. These are by the nature, by that some people has the good nature, they were programmed good, but they were not taught that they are good. And some people have the bad nature, they were programmed bad. So how much you taught to them that you should be good, they will be bad. Because why? Because their nature has been bad. So understanding and reasoning tells us that as the best way for us to learn about our world is that a process that depends more on the reason or intuition than on the understanding or mere observation. Here Emerson relates the observation with the understanding and intuition with the reason. And as we know that there is always a solid reason, a solid scientific reason behind every happening. Although we must first understand before we can get the reasons behind the things, his greatest complaint is that we gain the limited knowledge of nature. It is also in the Holy Quran, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Holy Quran that you are given a very limited knowledge. You are given a very little knowledge, that human beings have not given all of the knowledge. Allah Almighty has not blessed us with all of His knowledge, but He has given us to a little knowledge of nature, because we too readily mistakes the understanding for reason. Sometimes we think that the reason is understanding, and sometimes we think that the understanding is a reason, but both of them are different. How they are different, they have been explained to you in the previous slide. Now if we talk about the theme of unity, there is theories about that each person is a microcosm. And what is the micro? Micro means small, micro means small, and macro means large. A small universe corresponds to the macrosome of the natural world. I will now explain again the theory of Sir James, the dying sun. He says that the life was started with a microorganism, and it manipulated and multiplied with time to time, and it was more complex enough to make a human being, which is a macroorganism of the natural world. So this theory of each person being a microcosm was very popular in the Middle Ages and especially in Renaissance, and Emerson quotes from there. He discussed a poet, George Herbert, for an example. He says that he was a 17th century British poet. He discussed the Herbert's poem, which elaborates the parallels between the human and nature, that how the human being changed their nature and how the nature was changed by the human being, establishes a familial relationship, that both of them are familiar, that if they are familiar to each other. Like in our daily discussions we say that I know about his nature or her nature. So what is this? That is the something which is familiar to us. Unknowingly we talk about that, but we couldn't still define these things pet way, in a proper way, in a described way, in which the nature is an intricate household organized for our well-being, that nature was made for our well-being. Nature was only established for the well-being of human being. And also in the holy books, especially in the holy books of Christianity and Islam, uh, there are the number of times where it has been described that all of these things are for your well-being, that you are created for each other for your well-being, and your nature has been described to you, your nature has been put into your soul, into your body, only for your well-being. And there are some people who have the good nature, good habits, and there are some people who have the bad nature, bad habits. So all of these things has been described by Emerson, that these things are familiar to us in all of the relationship, as like an intricate household, like it is a parallel connection between the nature and the human beings, that human beings and nature has a parallel connection which cannot be denied at all. Now having conclusion in our mind, that what Emerson like to say is us, the conclusion of this chapter, that he draws them extensively on the ideas of Amos Bronson Alcott, who was a transcendentalist. We have discussed this person in our previous lecture, was delivered by me, that was on the topic of transcendentalism. and especially he was a fellow of Emerson, whom Emerson affectionately calls his Orphic poet, means that like siblings, like the brothers, they both of them has right like the both. You can say that the ideas of both of these literary men were similar. He defines the philosophy presented in this final section, that what is the philosophy behind the natural happening, what is the reasoning, what is the understanding. Either understanding is called reason, or either reason is called understanding. And he also elaborates the humanity has degenerated from a former utopia, and you have studied about utopia in your previous lectures, that utopia means nowhere in this world, that it is just a non-existence thing. It is a thing which doesn't exist physically, but still it is controlling our existence. That is the nature, that is the philosophy, that is the reason, that is the understanding, that is the spirituality, that is the soul, that is the body, that is the matter, that is the energy, or what name, physical or non-physical, which you can give to it. That is a basic driving force behind our life, and it is a former utopia that nowhere. And if we make an overall analysis, we can say that the all ills and evils in this world may be traceable, that nothing is in this world which is not traceable. We can trace each and everything. To this lapsing away from the close attention to the spiritual truth, that the spirituality has its very close connection with the truth, and truth is the other name of spirituality. If we are the spiritual being, we are more nearer to the truth. If we are more near to the truth, it means that we are more near to the God. If we are more near to the God, it means that we are more spiritual. So all of these things are interconnected. The spirituality connects us with the truth, and truth connects us with the God. Also, God connects us with the spirituality, and God connects us with the truth. The remedy for this condition of the mental and the moral informations is that it lies in our being open to nature's enlightenment and healing powers. Here again, the definition of William Wordsworth comes, that nature has a healing power, nature has a soothing power, nature has a power which we cannot deny of, and especially nature is having such type of spiritual powers. These powers are essential for our life. Without nature, we are nothing. If I will quote an example from the William Wordsworth's Lucy Gray. He says that when the Lucy Gray at a point she died, and he says that in his concluding line, William Wordsworth, he says that she is not died, she is actually sleeping in the lap of nature. That what is the fundamental spiritual and the philosophical thought of William Wordsworth behind these lines is that if we die, we don't die, we just sleep in the spirituality, we just sleep in the lap of nature, we just sleep in the lap of truth, and we basically are not existing in this world, but still we are the cause of existence in this world. Like this world was created for us. This is a very philosophical discussion, and we can discuss it in a number of ways and for several hours of time. But still he says that the nature's enlightenment and healing powers are described to man, that nature is healing the human being, nature and each and everything for the human being. And above all, he says that the reflection and intuition will unite the humanity and nature in the perfection of an undivided whole. That all of these things are essential for human being, but human being isn't essential for these things like the nature and spirituality, but still these things exist and human being coincide with them and they deal with them in each and every day's life. Hope that you have understand all the points, though the topics were spiritual to and especially philosophical to some extent. But if you hadn't perceived the things, or you hadn't a clear conception in your mind about some points, you can ask to me in comment box. Your question will be appreciated, and especially if you want further studies, here are the references. You can go through these references, and these are the books which has been written by the renowned writers. And that's it from my lecture. Hope that you have understand all of the things. Stay home, stay safe. Allah Hafiz. Goodbye.